Well, good morning, everybody. Having my usual coffee. Hopefully I won't spill it. Chris Magashar here. Hopefully everything's going well for you. Just trying to make it through the end of the year. I feel for you guys. I really do. It sucks. It really does. But finish out what you started. Go get to the finish line. I'm not going to stop saying those lines over and over. You got to make it to the finish line. You never know what's going to come up. Anyway, let's get started here. So as you can see, we're on our agenda page. Two different ways you can get to what we're doing. You can go to agenda here, and that'll take you into what we're going to talk about today, which is intro to Supreme Court cases. Or you can go back to e-learning day, and all three of the the classes that I've put together are on there. The one we're doing today is the intro to the Supreme Court. We're going to have a brief look at capital punishment and the Eighth Amendment, and then we're going to talk about student free speech rights, which include the First Amendment. I should have that on there. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go into, here's just our state standards. You can ignore those as you want. Here's currently our open assignments. These are all the assignments that have been assigned prior to this day. They are still open. My suggestion is you just start at the beginning and work your way through. By the way, let me go back one page. So you want to see the previous classes. I didn't mention this, but here are the three classes that we've had. I know I did mention this. So if you need to go back to a specific lesson, all you got to do is click on one of those. All right. So here's our intro. These are open assignments. Here's today's political cartoon, which is kind of, I don't know. I challenge anyone to call it barbaric. We provide a pillow. You know, if you don't know how capital punishment is carried out currently in the United States, we put people in this little room, strap them down, feed them 3 different drugs that eventually causes their death. So there's a little irony here where it's not barbaric. We give them a pillow. We're going to actually look at some previous ways that people were put to death. Yeah, kind of. Ugh. Anyway, today's instructions. So here's kind of the basic outline of what I'm asking you to do. A lot of this is just kind of beginning like research, getting a basic understanding. Again, you can always contact me, and I suggest that when I get done, I'll put on here the remind. Please get on remind so that if you need to talk to me, you can. The other one is you can go through inbox and ask me questions. So anyway, you can see here's the path a case must take. So there's really 2 different ways. You can go either through the state courts, which eventually the Supreme Court would hear the case, or you can go through federal courts. So state is the one where you mostly see like murder, things that happen within one locality within a state. Once you cross state lines, let's say it's kidnapping, then it might go up through the U.S. district courts. But either way, the Supreme Court is the last place where all cases are heard. This is a really good video by Vox. It's I'm not even going to play it, but it's 5 minutes long. It really does provide a good idea of how these cases make it. And I like it because they have pretty good graphics. Here's kind of a more traditional kind of visual, kind of showing how the Supreme Court actually works, what they actually do, how they get through it. And then what I'd like for you to look at some point is look at some of the pending Supreme Court cases. And if you look at those, there's a whole bunch. This is what the Supreme Court is actually listening to. So each case represents basically an hour of their time in court, but a majority of their time is done outside of court where they're researching previous practice, otherwise known as precedent, which will be a key word coming back. But you can kind of look, from October to basically June, this is what they're doing, is they're just trying to, come up with a decision that is going to be fair, that is going to follow the law. What I've done is, so there's some interesting ones that are kind of going to be up. So for example, there is, let me see if I can find it, New York State Rifle. So here's something on owning handguns and transferring them. Here's one on patent and trademarks. They're not very exciting, to be honest. There's a couple good ones. So it's coming up: Trump's financial records, Louisiana's abortion law, religious school scholarships, religious exemptions from discrimination, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Not a lot of what I think are interesting are more like the personal. We're going to look at a couple today. So anyway, that's just one look at that. So here's ultimately how they come about looking at Supreme Court, or how they come to their decision. So I have a couple readings here. Feel free to kind of look through them. Take a moment to look at this video. I can't embed it in because it's from a website, but what sort of impact does the Supreme Court have on American society today? And so when you watch this is from something called Big Think. This is just like 2 minutes long, and it's by Justice Stephen Breyer. So he talks about how really the decisions that the Supreme Court makes really affect society. Some of them affect society a lot. Some of these cases do not at all. So anyway, I'd take a moment to look at that. What impact does the Supreme Court decision have on American society? So here's some background information on capital punishment. So maybe the first thing you need to do is figure out what capital punishment is. So if I were just to go to dictionary.com and type in capital punishment, let's see what we get. So it is punishment by death for a crime, death penalty. So when you think about, okay, how does a case or an action by an individual ultimately end up their punishment being served by capital punishment? So generally we know murder, but are there any other crimes other than murder? And we'll kind of explore that here a little bit. But punishment by death for a crime. Okay. So what is punishment? Well, here's some historical methods. You could hang somebody, shoot them, lethal injection, which is mostly what the United States does now. Not all states agree to it. Not all states are execution states. Indiana is, by the way. Look, you can even stone somebody to death. The condemned is pummeled by stones thrown by a group of people with totality of the injuries suffered leading to eventual death. So that doesn't really happen in the United States. It does still happen in some Middle Eastern countries, some Muslim Middle Eastern, although Christians are pretty good at crucifixion, though. Roping or nailing to a wooden cross or similar apparatus, right? So here's some traditional ones. Some of the ancient ones are incredible. Disembowelment, that's always a good one, often employed as a preliminary stage to the actual execution, which was sometimes, so this is where they're going to open themselves up from their chest down and allow their entrails. It's horrible. Drawing and quartering, that is essentially where you tie somebody, so you tie somebody down, so they tie their wrists, they tie their ankles, they will tie them to a horse on either end, and they will pull the person apart. That's quartering. Just some horrible ways. So I guess the question we come back to is, what is barbaric and what is not? So again, that's what we're going to kind of be looking at. With this particular case, here's a timeline of capital punishment so you can kind of get an overall view. Here's the legal methods that are allowed in the United States today. So 36 states have the death penalty today. 5 different methods of execution are prescribed: lethal injection, electrocution, lethal gas, firing squad, and hanging. I do know the last firing squad was like 1977. I remember that as a kid. But, we don't really hang people anymore, but they're still acceptable. What we try to do is lethal injection here. And you can look, Indiana certainly is a lethal injection state. Oklahoma and Utah. Utah was where the firing squad took place. Some states still have hanging. So some of this stuff's kind of, morbidly interesting. Here's some fast facts about the death penalty, done by CNN. 62 people are awaiting execution. There are 22 individuals were executed between 76 and 2005 as juveniles, which means they were younger than 18. Ultimately, we were going to get that Roper versus Simmons. Notice this is up through 2005. In 2005, in Roper versus Simmons, the Supreme Court rules that the execution of juvenile offenders is unconstitutional. So if you commit murder before the age of 18, you cannot be put to death. But anyway, you can take a look at that. There's some interesting stuff in there. Now, what I'd really like for you to kind of pay attention to is these two readings. So, when death penalty turns into torture. This is a story about Oklahoma and how they tried to do an execution, but it messed up. And what happened essentially, as they were trying to inject into a system the different drugs, he had a vein failure. Really what happens is the drug cocktail was not perfectly, what do we want to say, safe. And because of that, we have a person who suffers during their punishment. Let's look at the, real quick, before we move on, let's just look at what the Eighth Amendment actually says. Eighth Amendment. There we go. Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. So is the botching of, let's see, let's go back to here. Nope. Let's just get this thing. Clayton Lockett. There we go. So they had this new 3-drug lethal injection protocol. The first drug was an untried cocktail, was administered. Lockett was briefly unconscious, then began writhing and bucking on the gurney. So the first one's actually supposed to kind of put you to essentially calm you. The second one begins to put you under, and the third one then shuts down your organs. So there's 3 different drugs that are administered. What they begin to see is the drugs aren't working on this Lockett. And you can kind of continue on with that. This was when the Supreme Court tried to make a decision about whether or not this is legal or not, if it is cruel or unusual punishment. I actually have a breakdown of this case that I did way back in 2014. It's not great. I do sound younger, by the way. That's 6 years ago. But one of the places we're always going to look at is this website called Oyez.org. And when I look at it, when I open it up, this is kind of going to be our main place. I would say to go to Oyez, or I'd go to Wikipedia. Now, you got to be able to read through it, but what we can see is a couple of things. Here's the defendant, Glossip v. Gross. We don't know who's who, but we can see the petitioner is Richard Glossip. The respondent is Kevin Gross, and we'll find out a little bit more about. You can see how it went through United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, so it went through the federal courts because they were federal prisoners. Here's some of the facts of the case. Here's the question that the Supreme Court had to decide. Does Oklahoma's use of midazolam as an initial drug in the execution protocol, the same initial drug used in Clayton Lockett's execution, violate the Eighth Amendment's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment? Well, how they decided was 5-4, so the 5 that are kind of clear, those are the ones who voted for it. We get conservative judges who voted that, let's see, decision for Gross. I got to remember who Gross is. Gross is the respondent. Where'd they put? Oh, Richard Gross and 2 other death row inmates petitioned the court again. So Glossip is the prisoner. Gross is, I believe, the Attorney General of Oklahoma. So who do they decide for? They decide for Gross, for Oklahoma. And here's kind of their response. So the court held that there was insufficient evidence that the use of midazolam as the initial drug in the execution protocol entailed a substantial risk of severe pain compared to known and available alternatives. Long story short, the Supreme Court rules that the drug cocktail is